When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Supposed to ride, standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. You can weep and moan, or you can reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. Another fun Sunday talking about guns, Second Amendment, and all things that have to do with your self-defense, your family's defense, and shooting fun.
We only have like 2 hours, so we really don't get to all things because it's amazing how many things are out there.
People say you do this every week. Don't you run out of things to say?
No, we run out of time to say it before we run out of things to
say. Exactly.
Chipman, you've heard the name. He's still out there making noise.
What's he doing now?
He's just running his mouth for no apparent reason. He's lost, but he is not giving up easily.
No apparent reason. I love that. No apparent reason.
There's a lot of things going on for no apparent reason, but it's so funny. It's like they're saying the normal stuff is, we'll take care of it. You don't need a gun. You got a police. Just call the police. The Taliban says the same thing. You don't need a gun. We're gathering up all the guns in Afghanistan now because everybody's out of all settled down now, so they don't.
So they've gathered up all the guns in Afghanistan, and then you hear, that they had. I just heard the other day that they had one of their sports stars, who was a gal who participated in either high level sports or the Olympics, and they beheaded her because she didn't dress properly.
See, so she didn't need a gun because
they were handling it. They handled it. So there's that. Let's talk about a little bit about the stuff that we did this weekend. So Rob and I put together a.
Finally went out and shot some.
Yeah, and one of the things we shot was the brand new. We've talked about this. We talked about the fact that we were getting this. The brand new tiger striped Tommy gun came as the new
silver plated Tommy gun. We ran a couple hundred rounds to it. So much for its new in box collector value.
It's not going to have that. It's because somebody's like, "Are you going to shoot it?" And the answer to that is, heck, yeah, we're shooting it. I mean, why would you have something that?
The funny part is, if
it were vintage and there was something about that it hadn't been shot in years, that would be one thing. But it's brand new.
Go buy a new one. Why we might as well just use our new one.
I know it. I had somebody follow me around going, "Want to sell it? Want to sell it? I want that." And
so remember funny is how it's the action. It's Tommy gun is a direct blowback. So how stiff that thing is, and trying to load it. It's like you got to almost be in a certain spot to make sure you can pull the bolt back far enough to load the.
I think the best thing that I saw was the fact that they were sitting there and we've got a 50 round drum that you're loading with 45 caliber ammo. And so they're trying to do it and it's all new and it's all kind of stiff and we're not all coordinated and everybody's like, I know how, but in theory, I know how. So
there's little pods in there that hold about 9 or 10 bullets in each pod. If you don't put 9 or 10 bullets in that so that they're all tight,
they fall over.
And then that causes you to jam up. So you've got to make sure when you're putting it together that each of these little pods is completely full. Mm-hmm. And then when you put the cover on and you wind it all up, everything works good. If for some reason you got 2 or 3 bullets in a 5 or 6 run,
it falls over.
They fall over and then start jamming things up, and then you have nothing but trouble. And you don't hardly have enough hands to take the magazine out of the gun. And
so when I walked over, there's Rich, and he's hugging to his chest the 50 round drum with the lid off of it, working on it. And then the next thing you know, it has now sucked up his shirt. And so it's pulling his shirt into the drum. And so he definitely now does not have enough hands
he's
and
holding
his
the
shirt.
Drum and trying to play with the bullets, and then his shirt is starting to be pulled in as the drum is pulling itself into.
Yeah, it was classic.
We finally got it working. It was a lot of fun. The funny part was that we were shooting some metal like pepper poppers. The metal made more noise than the Tommy gun did, and there was no recoil to it either. But the gun is so heavy, I don't know. I mean, it's got to weigh AR-15s worth of.
And then you put ammo in it, and then it gets really heavy.
No recoil at all, hardly any noise. But boy, that it hits good and hard. It was a lot of fun to shoot, and
well, we had a whole variety of people that were at the range with us because we were doing a fundraiser as an event. So
I think
we
if
were
we
doing
just had stick mags, we wouldn't have had nearly the
I
trouble
think so
playing
too.
with learning the 50-round drum
with an audience. Let's just say, sometimes you guys get to hear. Sometimes this was not our best idea. That would be one of those. This was not our best idea, but it was one of the gals. I would guess, no, though it's women and you don't really guess their weight, but I would guess that she weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, and she's like, man, that was heavy. And she shot the last of the bullets out of the magazine. And so it was like, or out of the drum. So it was like, well, it would have been double that weight had you been the first shooter, not the last shooter. So celebrate that fact and go from there. So it was
a lot of fun. We also had a bunch of shooters show up. We were doing different things. My particular spot, we were doing some point shooting drills. And then I had a group of I had a target. I put out at an arbitrary distance saying I can hit that, so everybody else had to. Right. They were about 2-inch circles, and they were numbered 1 through 10. You got 10 shots. You had to hit 1 to move to 2 to move to 3. So it took you 4 shots on the first one. Now you only had 6 shots for the second one,
mm-hmm.
and from there, most people got to about number 4. The number 5 was a little bit beyond their skill level for some reason. It was a lot of fun though, and everybody had a good time. I shot it without not being official because she said it would be cheating. So
right, the instructors can't shoot this.
So I got a 6.
You got a 6.
Working on 7, but arbitrarily, I thought I could hit all 10 when I looked
and
at
you
that.
Couldn't. And it was really funny because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, but I didn't get 5. So
I think a lot of people had trouble with number 5.
I think 5 moved. 5 was just I was going to shoot it and it moved over.
So I don't know how everybody else's range day went there, but I had a good time. There was a lot of people coming through, and it was funny. We would just teach them to point shoot 15, 20 feet. Well, they shot 5 shots of 15, then we moved to 20. It was funny that extra 5 feet would
made
throw you a curveball.
Huge difference.
It's like you can hit it 15, but you can't hit it 20.
20.
So.
And that's it. So get them set up, let them start, and then work from there. But it was. Here's the cool part: is that we were challenged with doing a fundraiser, and so let's use our superpower. So we did it as an event that started with safety, went to education, and then went to fun. And as they worked around, they were all safe. Everybody did extremely well with that. They learned things, and then they had a good time. So it was an extreme success in that manner.
Next year, if you put out the shingle you're doing it, I'm sure it's going to be pretty easy to fill the spot. So,
yeah, I think we have now found something that will just continue to work year after year. So that's one of the cool parts about doing something like that is once you find the formula and then you document the formula so that next year you go, what did I do? So this year it's write down what we can do different, what we can do better. But I'll tell you, here in Ohio, I got up and the temperature was 27 degrees. And I'm like, man, oh man, I am not sure that this is going to be
You should do it in the summer when everybody wants to be outside.
Well, there was that, but it was a great, it warmed up.
At least it wasn't snowing on you.
No, it was a great crisp fall day, warmed up perfectly. And you couldn't ask for anything that was really better than what we did. But so if you guys ever have an opportunity where you need to do something of that ilk, reach out in the firearms world and start to talk to different instructors, because they each, when I challenge them to, here, look at the stuff that you do well. And what one thing can you teach a group in a half an hour? And that's what we're going to teach.
That was the trickiest part, was trying to figure out what you could fit into your time schedule to make sure that everybody got something out of it. and that they were done in time to move.
So
to
that
the next.
so that you got to explain it, they got to absorb it, they got to try it, and they were ready to move when the bell rang to move them to the next spot.
Yeah, once you got that under control, it was a lot
The rest
of fun.
of it was so much better. Yeah, it was really cool. So hey, folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about muzzle-loading pistols because we got a story, and with the story we've got questions, and we'll go from there. But you are listening to Rob and Amanda from Eye on the Target Radio, and we are also on TV on demand. We'll talk about that.
I couldn't get my chainsaw to work today, so then I was going to pull a tree out with Tom's truck, and I couldn't. It wouldn't do it. It just sits on the top of the ground and spins. So I had to get my backhoe and dig the damn thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was laying on me while I'm trying to get the backhoe back out of there, so it's all wound up in the wheels and trying to knock me off the machine. And it's like, I forget how much fun this stuff was.
I'm not having any good time with this. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I'd gone in to get something. I couldn't remember what I went to get, and then you were talking to Greg about coffee and drink, and you said drink, and I went, oh! Let me go get that. Yeah. Hee. I can't find the ops lens thing. Okay. Okay, we are back and we are talking about the history. So I had somebody reach out to me because they have a they had a vitriol-filled divorce, and in that vitriol-filled divorce, they ended up with both husband and wife having some kind of domestic abuse charges against them. So it was like both of them were whatever.
You know, the
So-
Lautenberg Act makes it so that if you have a domestic abuse against you, that's the only non-felony that takes your Second Amendment rights away from you, and it never goes away.
Right. Well, that was the conversation that we were having. And so he was saying, well, what could I have for self-defense? And so we started to go down this path of muzzleloaders and stuff. And it was like, why don't you?
Every state is a little bit different, but Ohio, they register they say the muzzleloader, the ones that are the original looking. I don't know what they would call them, reenactors, or
the replicas of guns built before 1898 are non-guns. So it's they can mail them to you in the mail. They can so you just have to be a certain age to buy them from different places. Right, but would you want? I mean, I guess it's better than a spoon from Wendy's, but would you want that kind of a thing, or do you just go, okay, I'm going to switch
a
to
good choice.
pepper spray? Yeah, that's kind of where I sent them.
You can't go wrong with a gun if you need a gun. If you don't need a gun, then you might have got it along with that spoon from Wendy's. But if you got to have a gun, there's very few substitutes that fit into that category.
I get it.
And if you get that gun and you play with it a little bit, it's every bit as dependable as a modern day gun. It doesn't quite go as fast, or it doesn't have the fancy sights and all the stuff, but it's very capable of defending your position.
If you take a replica muzzle-loading pistol and you have it all loaded, and then you put all that goop butter stuff on the front, and you can tell me what the terms are.
They sell this other, it's called a Wonder Wad. It's got like a Wonder Lube built into. So you put your powder in, and you put the wad in, and put the ball in, and it's nice and dry, and you don't have that goop. And if you're just out in the yard shooting, grease on the front stops one chain, they call it chain fire, so one round from firing the next round next to it. Also, it lubes the bore, it does a lot of different things. And it's cheap, but if you're carrying it in your pocket, it makes a huge mess. So
bingo.
So
in my head, that's all I could think of was...
There's ways around it. It's just if you're shooting those Wonder Wads all day long, they cost extra 10 cents a hole or something. Where a 3-pound can of Crisco is what?
I'm just going to say that
last year for 100 years.
That you've made me use the Crisco, and then it is messy.
You just carry this towel with you so you can wipe your hand in the gun and everything.
It's not just the hand in the gun; it's the fact that the glop comes back, and now it's the face and the glasses and the shirt, and it's messy.
Right, but it's messy, but it's still fun, and. That's the thing, too, is there's every kind of gun from 1836 when they brought out the Texas Pattersons all the way up until they developed cartridges in the 1870s. And so there's a lot of different guns in that category that should suit your needs. There's actually some even double action revolvers that were built during that time you'd have to check because the Italians are kind of whimsical as to when they build that stuff. So sometimes you can get it, sometimes you can't. You just have to see what's available at this particular time in history. Like if you buy a Walker or one of the big Colt Dragoon pistols, it shoots a rifle charge of powder, so it's almost on the 44 Magnum edge of.
So what would be the smallest? So if we were going down this path,
Colt made in 1848. They made this thing. They called it a baby Dragoon because they'd already made their first, second, third model Dragoons, which were full size. They called them horse pistols because they were too big to wear in your belt. And they built this. It's a little 32 caliber, 5-shot or 6-shot, depending on which version you got. Some of them had loading tools built into the gun. Some of them that was separate, but the gun was super popular. There's a westward expansion. Everybody's going to California to hit it big in the gold fields. Colt sold thousands of these. And it was from 1848 until about 1873. This was the top-selling Colt revolver of all time. Was they called it the Baby Dragoon, but it shot a 31 caliber ball and about 15 grains of powder. So basically, it was like shooting a 32 long. But back in the old days, we didn't need 44 magnums. People thought that 32 Smith & Wesson long was actually a powerful gun, and the 38 Smith & Wesson. Today we look at them almost as comical because they're so slow and that. But apparently they got the job done, and
Right.
you didn't have to worry about tons of recoil or.
Well,
any
you
of that
didn't
stuff.
have other expectations, so there is.
Right, your
part of
pistol
it
was
is-
there to get to your rifle, and if you made it, good. If you didn't, you just hope that you chose wisely on that pistol.
Well, and then you weren't there to complain afterwards if you didn't choose wisely. So they're like, okay, well, nobody's complaining.
Right,
So-
and a lot of it wasn't like in the movies. I mean, if they shot you and you went away, that was great. That's what
That's all they
were
care
wanting.
about.
And if you, more than likely, either tetanus got you or the doctor got a hold of you after that, and neither one of them was a good situation. So-
Right. Because I'm not sure yet when physicians learned that you had to wash your hands from one guy to the next, or from lunch to the next.
Abraham Lincoln would have lived if it wasn't for all the doctors probing for his bullet hole to see where the bullet went to. So that was his biggest downfall, was his doctors actually
Saying, I got to get this out.
Yep, or how far in is it? And everything. So they kept sticking things in the holes to see what.
Okay. Isn't that crazy that later on they can do these diagnostics and say this was this, and it
When
just
you think about it, the medicine from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War really didn't make much. There wasn't much upgrades, and then from the Civil War to World War I, really there wasn't a lot of upgrades at that point either. They learned so much stuff in the battlefield of World War I
to go to World War II. So that was the combo. That 30 years was absolute medical magic.
Right. I mean, they were still just, if they had a problem with it, they were cutting it off at World War I. They didn't try to fix it. They just.
Okay, you don't need this. Whatever that is, you don't need this. I think I do. I think I still need that. Whatever that was, I was given it when I started on this earth. I still need it.
You can still find these pistols. Look online. There's a lot of places that are selling them, and they'll ship them right to your house. It's a lot of fun.
When we come back, we're going to have Rob Morris from Self Defense Gun Stories. He's a regular. You love him. I cannot find this.
I hid this in my machine, and I hid this in my machine, and I cannot find it no more.
No, it's not quite that. I'm on OpsLens. Paul has loaded our show onto OpsLens, and it's not here.
Huh.
It won't give me any other choice but to sort by most popular.
County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Hey folks, in our guest segment of today's show, we are bringing on Rob Morris. And so Rob is joining us, and so we're trying to do this. We're trying to include new technology. So we're going to see how this works. So Rob, can we hear you?
Boy, I hope so. I can hear you.
Oh, look at that. It's all working. Look, I love this world, this whole world, so that you're not there holding your phone to your head. You're actually using your headset. It's all good. I mean, there has been times when Rob and I are like, the show's going on the air regardless. Here's a phone, here's a camera, whatever.
Trying to use the phone, and then there's like a couple of second delay and everything. It's like it's easily confusing. More than my normal life.
Tin can and a string. Just don't get the string wet.
Exactly. But maybe it'll do better with it wet. I don't know.
Well, I have self-defense gun stories teed up for you. Is that where you want to go? I've got some long ones and some short ones. Where should we go first?
I think we're going to go to self-defense gun stories, because otherwise we could just get ourselves into a big hole.
Those are a lot of fun.
So let's start. Let's start with, first, let me tell folks that that you are Rob Morris, and that you do a tiny little snack food of a podcast called Self-Defense Gun Stories. And you also then write for AmmoLand, and you publish in a couple different places so that they can find them and trace back the links and then find you. And your Self-Defense Gun Stories are one of the most popular podcasts in podcast land. It's crazy. You're in the top 2% of all podcasts or some darn thing, right?
And I think all that means is it's short, People listen. I've got it on a number of outlets. And after 6 years, I'm an overnight sensation.
All of that is truly true. But the basis of your show is that you kind of dig through the news and you find defensive gun use stories, and then you get instructors, and you've got a variety of instructors that work with you to talk about what they did right, what they did wrong, were they good, were they lucky, all of that kind of stuff. So, right?
Well, what happened? The things that you and I often desperately want to know aren't covered in the news.
No.
Grandma may have done a perfect job. She may be a ninja, and they leave those details out. So even if they did a great job, the probability of it being accurately reported is small. So we want to fill in the gaps so that your students, my students, get an example of best practice. Yes, Grandma succeeded in defending herself. What would we like to do if we were in her place?
Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
We'd like to stay as far away from Grandma's place as possible because there's guns going off there and stuff.
If your grandma's a ninja, we want to be careful. So, okay, so let's roll out a story. Let's start talking.
Well, this one I thought of you when I covered it this week. It's in Violet Township, Ohio.
Okay.
Now, the details, again, didn't get everything we wanted, but I think it's in an afternoon, and you hear a car crash. Whoa, that's not normal. So you and your friend go outside to see what happened. Now, the driver gets out of his car, and rather than stand there and go, gosh, can you help me, or sits there and pulls out a cell phone, the driver runs away. Now, a minute later, the driver comes back, sees you standing there in the front yard going, did you see what I just saw? What do we do now? And he attacks you and your friend who are standing there and came outside. You shout for him to stop, but instead of stopping, the attacker hits you again. All right, this has got to stop. You present your firearm and shoot the attacker several times. Now he stops hitting you and he stops hitting your friend. Now you can back away, you stop shooting, and you call 911. Police arrest your attacker. EMTs take him to the hospital. They notice that you and your roommate are injured, but you don't need the trip to the hospital. And because, Amanda, you've seen me do this before, I go, we're dealing with somebody who's either intoxicated or crazy. This is just so outside of what we'd normally see. But you know what? That doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Right.
Instability happens. What is it? 70% of all aggravated assaults involve the aggressor being under the influence, either drugs or alcohol. Now, fortunately, our defender was carrying her firearm. What else do you see that she did correctly?
Well, I have so many questions. So the first question is, in the end, what did they figure out? Was he a carjacker? Was it a stolen car? Was he whacked?
They didn't give us the follow-on details. We don't know.
I need details. I gotta know.
Details,
right? Isn't that what? That's that inquiring minds want to know. But okay, so I think that the good parts are that our defender was, the first thing is that, okay, they were doing whatever, sitting around watching TV, fat, dumb, and happy, right up until they hear the bang and they go outside to see.
Right. They bring their gun with them.
And they bring their gun with them. Had they been like, well, hold on a minute, I have to go back to the dresser and get my gun, and then I have to go over here in this drawer and get my bullets, and then I have to cause the two to be together, and friend, just hold steady right there. I'll be back in 5, right?
Exactly. The first thing about self-defense is a little bit of preparation, a little bit of thought goes such a long way.
Right.
Robert, what do you see? What would you like your students to do that might not have been covered in this story?
Oh, well, like I said, showing up at the thing with the gun is a big plus. Also, it should have been, because of the fact there was 2 of them against the one guy in the car, it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. I mean, you think 2 people could overpower 1 if they...
Well, it really depends on whether it's grandma's or whether he's jacked up on something. Is he stronger than you? Are you stronger than him?
Who wants to wrestle a naked man, right?
Yeah, nobody wants to tackle the naked guy. I agree with you, Robert, in the sense that why weren't both of them armed? Just a little practice. Now, you don't need a giant cannon, but if they're attacking one person, it may be very hard to put your hands down to get your gun.
Well,
when you've
you're
got your
also
hands up to keep from getting hit. Well,
right. When
okay,
you're in the bottom of the monkey pile,
That's one thing we teach in close quarters combat is the fact that you have to make room to be able to draw your gun. So if you're already in the middle of the melee where everybody's punching and grabbing and grappling, you may not have that opportunity to get to your gun.
To figure out how to shove them back, or you step back, or roll out of the way, or something.
Even if your partner would have like pepper spray or something on the keychain, it would have been much better for everyone.
Well, probably might easily have gotten you both. Robert, you just talked about it. Close quarters combat. We talk about a firearm as being a distance tool, but most criminals want to close with us, and so our first signal that something's wrong is we've been hit in the head, and maybe we're on the ground figuring it out.
Right. Well, your mom taught you to be nice to people, and that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the gun is on my body, I have to fight my way to get my hand down on my hip and get my gun back up.
Yeah, I have friends who have got into an altercation and had a gun, ended up using 40 other tools, never thinking about drawing the gun because they hadn't thought that it had got to that point yet.
That had gotten that serious.
Wow.
In one case,
they were using hammers, flashlights with those serrated edges on them.
So the bad guy had a claw hammer, and the good guy had his flashlight with the serrated edge, and the two of them were going at it. And he had a gun on his hip, and when he finally pulled his gun, he flipped it around and used it as a hammer instead of actually firing the gun. And when the police said to him later, because he persevered, when the police said to him later, why did you could have justifiably shot this guy because he's harmed you, he's come after you with a hammer, he knocked you down, and he was like, well, I hadn't thought, that my gun is the tool of last resort.
It hadn't escalated to that point yet.
I thought I had a resort or two left. So
wow, you have tough friends.
We'll just say we laughed at them. So Rob, will you hold steady? We're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk about another one of these stories because they're so good. They cause you to think. And they cause you to rethink some decisions that you make. And sometimes we make decisions that aren't necessarily good after the fact. And so Rob causes us to think about them first.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, well, we are back with Rob Morris from Self-Defense Gun Stories. So, Rob, why don't you tell folks where they can find your podcast as the primary places and make it easy for them?
Well, it has a website called selfdefensegunstories.com, but they find the podcast everywhere podcasts are distributed. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music. How do you listen to the rest of your podcasts? I'm there. Search for it.
There you go. Self-Defense Gun Stories. Yeah. Okay. What you got?
Now, this is another one near you. It's in Jefferson, West Virginia.
Okay.
As ordinary as it comes. It's after midnight. It's a weekday. You hear a stranger at your door. Now, this is where the news article doesn't give us all the information we want. They don't tell us if the door was unlocked or if the stranger kicked his way in. But your roommate goes to sort it out, and he figures out the stranger doesn't belong. He starts pushing him back out the door. That's when the intruder draws what looks like a firearm. Your roommate grabs the gun. The two men are going hand to hand. Your roommate trying to push him out. You're armed. You shoot the intruder in the chest one time. That's enough to stop the attack. The stranger drops his gun, stops fighting, backs away. Unfortunately, you also just shot your roommate in the hand because his hand was on the bad guy's chest. You are both able to back up. You call 911. Police arrest your intruder, emergency medical services takes the intruder to the hospital. He survives. They take your roommate to the hospital to start to treat his hand. Later, you didn't know it now, later the police tell you that your intruder's handgun was a pellet pistol. Again, now 70% of these criminals that come and perform an aggravated assault are high, drugs or alcohol, because that sounds like an incredibly brave and stupid thing to do, to break into someone's house. But what they're counting on is audacity, that we're not awake, we're not violent, and they come with a plan of violence. So, wow. Again, as we said, by the time we figure out that there's a problem, we're way behind.
We are way behind.
Rob?
And by the time we figure out that that gun is a gun or not a gun, frankly,
in Ohio,
if
Ohio, they changed the rules. So if you say it's a gun, even if we can't see it, it's a gun. So
if it looks like a gun or it walks like a gun or it is stated it's a gun, so yeah.
The classic finger in the jacket pocket is a gun legally if I say, hand it over or I'll shoot.
That I have a gun. Yep. Because how could you know whether it's your finger or you just like me? Right?
You went there. Okay, but again, now, okay, think about this. This is where a plan would be awesome. Because your roommate goes, well, what if I try to push him out? And the guy goes, well, I'll shoot him. And go, wait a minute, I'm in the way. What about
that would have been the thing is
well,
that
at least you only shot him in the hand.
But still, if you're going to shoot me in the arm, not in the hand, because you need all those pieces.
Use the hand. You
need all those pieces. Right? There's not a good spot on my hand for you to shoot that I'm not going to notice or miss.
Yeah, but you just
Amanda, I was listening to what you said earlier. I came with all these parts. I want them to work later. Right. I'm with you.
That's generally the conversation that I have when I'm doing the range safety stuff. Is I come with all my fingers and toes. I want to go home that way.
You're lucky. He's lucky the guy decided to use a handgun instead of a shotgun.
Right. If I'm in the way, man. So Big John says that the locked door was for his protection, not mine. Well, and the roommate just kind of got in the way, but that is an issue in any time that you're doing any of the close quarters grappling kind of stuff. Is that okay? You're wrestling with them. I've got the gun. Oh wait, where am I? Where can I get a clear?
If it's just you got two hands, and so one's doing one thing, one's doing something else. You could easily shoot yourself through without being aware, or cut yourself. I mean, your knife is sharp for a reason, and so you need to think about this stuff ahead of time a little bit as you're.
Which is why, in a lot of cases, when the good trainers are teaching you that when you go for your gun, where is your second hand? What's it doing? Right. Is it protecting your neck? Is it holding your chest? Is it pulling your shirt? How is it out of the way so that you're not sweeping yourself? But they don't train you how not to sweep your roommate. It's not in the classes I've ever taken.
Well,
also think about if you have a dog or something that enters in the situation, you can't think for the dog. So now you have to try to you're in this playing around that dog, trying to keep from hurting it while you're dealing with the intruder.
Okay, Rob, go ahead.
Well, there are things you can do. You and I think of a gun. We teach our students that a gun is a distance tool, so you don't have to go hand to hand when the guy comes through the door. You yell stop, he tries to close, you stop him. Until your roommate's going hand to hand, and now everything changes. You need to get closer. If these guys are moving around, we can imagine a number of scenarios, maybe where he thought he was going to shoot wasn't there anymore because the two men were turning. Easy to imagine.
Maybe
the other thing is,
a gun as a hammer is a viable alternative.
Maybe your buddy was smart. Well, let's not go that far.
It's got a handle already built right into it. You can just keep on throttling away.
We'll just we're not going to tell him you said he was smart because we don't. We just don't.
The other thing might be, okay, who turned on the lights? Oh, what if it's dim light and you never made sure where your buddy's hand was? Think about it ahead of time. Look, if you have a security plan, maybe one of the things is, you know what? Things are going to be a mess. I don't know if you're going to be armed, if I'm going to be armed, who's going to have the flashlight. They make, and what do they cost now? A couple bucks, motion detector light switches. Everybody used them before because they wanted to turn off the lights if no one was in the room. Okay, so you leave it on. You walk away, it turns itself off. Somebody comes in the front door, and all of a sudden, the lights are on. You get to see them. Life is good. But maybe when two guys are moving, you need to grab the bad guy's shirt, hold on to him so you move with him, and maybe your gun needs to be so close that your roommate can't get between the gun and the bad guy.
There is some of that, and most guns will work with that if it's making contact, as long as it is not trying to you've tried to shove it through the third rib.
Through the guy.
The thing too is we're sitting here this, what do they call it, Monday morning
quarterbacking.
Right.
That guy's sweating bullets and having his hair pulled out and things banged off his head. He's not in a decision-making mode right at that point.
Well, that's why you have to think about this stuff in advance. And I think that's the beauty of Rob's show. This is one of the, I tell people that I started my house on fire one time, and I realized that in an emergency, you stop thinking. You only do what you have practiced or what you have thought about before, because there is not an original thought that is going to get back in.
The firemen, when you were in school, they would make a plan and practice that plan.
And it's like, well, we're smart enough to get out of the house when it's on fire. But I actually went back a couple times, had to get my coat, had to get my dog, had to get my shoes, had to get my, and the fireman kept saying, are you in the house? Well, yeah, I need my coat. Yeah, it's 13 degrees. Yeah, but it's that kind of a thing. You cannot think about it at the moment and have okay, I've got to decide what I'm going to do, because you're like, it's not, it's not happening. Make a plan, practice that plan. Right, exactly. So, folks, if you want to catch some of Rob's shows, and Rob has, I think, 6 trainers that work in rotation. So I'm on his show some, but there's some other really, really amazing trainers that work with Rob. So look up Self-Defense Gun Stories, like he said, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music Play, all of those kinds of places, and download it, because you're going to love it. 20 minutes is all that his shows are. And so you can catch them on the way to work, on the way home. Rob Morse, thanks so much for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
Thank you, Rob and Amanda.
Bye.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
to ride. Standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. Can weep and moan, or you can reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Operator standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment. Concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey, folks, welcome back to Hour 2 of Eye on the Target Radio.
Yeah, Smith & Wesson announced they're moving to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
They already broke ground on the new place, and
they're not waiting kids. They're moving on. They really are. So there's so much stuff that's happened this week, that is happening last week, that all is going on. So let's cover a couple things just to do. You know that November 11th is Veterans Day. And so if you are a vet, we want to say thank you. And know that if you look at your favorite restaurants, there are so many restaurants that are sponsoring, helping, and assisting to give back. And so I know that you can look in your community and somebody's going to treat you to an ice cream, to a coffee, or to a dessert. So,
right, but remember to tip your
waitress. Yes, do that. So we also want to tell you that on November 11th, it's Tom Gresham from Gun Talk, his 70th birthday. So if you guys are Gun Talk folks, send him a little message, send him an email, send him a tweet, and wish him a happy birthday, because he is like the grandfather of gun radio, and has led the charge and has gone before us. There's no doubt about it. And he continues to really just put it together. So then this week, the Supreme Court heard the case of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin.
I didn't read any, or listen. I didn't listen to any of this stuff, but all I did is I've been watching the liberal news media go crazy.
Their response to it, right?
They know it's not going to go their way,
mm-hmm.
and so the whole thing is that the gun control is a losing thing, and that even the hardcore gun people are going to miss some of the gun control aspect.
Yeah, no, we're not.
You know, the thing, in reality, depending on how far back they roll the cloth, because this isn't really about, they're not going to make new laws. They're just going to roll the cloth back to 1776 or 1779 or whatever. And so how far back will they go, and how much of that are you willing to let them have? And when they say everything is an infringement, are you willing to let somebody say they got a felony, they dealt with a felony, they come out, do they get a free clean slate and can buy a gun again? Do you have some little caveat about, well, if they shot at the cops when they were doing this, I don't want to do that, or if
right? So what's their violence? And so it's going to be it's going to be interesting, because there's the short term what this decision is, and then there's the deeper, the waves in the pond is what you're saying. So it's really interesting, because even some of the liberal judges are asking questions that we're saying, which other of your rights that are documented in the Bill of Rights do you need documentation, and do you need descriptions, and are there caveats to?
Well, you have to fill out things, background checks, all this stuff to be able to do any of the rest of your.
So the interesting thing is that the Supreme Court really hasn't taken a case that they've accepted to make a decision since they worked their way through the Heller, and then the McDonald, and then the Ezell, and that was kind of it.
But they also knew that they were short during those time frames. Scalia had mentioned that they needed to go further, but they didn't. And so now, how far-reaching is this going to be?
It's going to be interesting, but we're not going to know for another 8 months.
Right, but it's good watching the liberal media stewing their own juices, because with them not knowing, some of the stuff that they throw out is so
bizarre.
It's comical just reading it. I mean, they make a good Saturday Night Live skit or something, just and how they're freaked out about the whole thing.
Yeah, it was.
The other thing, there's a bigger case that's coming through the Supreme Court. Nobody mentions it, but it is about the EPA, and the EPA actually gave the okay for them to hear this. But the way that the laws are written, they say that all laws that the EPA have been involved in since 1970 are written wrongly, and that if this thing is set up right, almost every law that Congress has passed since the 70s is going to have to be gone back through because they have used the wrong basis for being able to pass some of this stuff. And
that would
so
be...
it may be super far-reaching in the fact that they had written it wrong from the baseline, and but no one seems to be mentioning that right now. So it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting. Do you know when they're hearing the testimony on that?
I do not know, but it was supposed to be in this block of stuff that they're doing.
Okay, so the interesting thing about the Supreme Court, for those of you guys who are not Supreme Court junkies, is the fact that they write their cases, they submit it in writing. There are people who then can write amicus brief, friends of the court briefs, and so they get to write those and throw them in the pot. And you can write them if you're for it or if you're against it. You take sides and you write it.
This New York thing, all 50 states attorney generals have wrote something. The NRA has wrote.
Well, the DC Project actually submitted an amicus brief.
So a lot of pro and anti-gun.
So there's a lot of reading that they have to do to that. So then what happens is they then call the lawyers in, and the lawyers only get a period of time to make their case. And it is not like it's a trial where there's hours and hours and days and weeks, and when they're done, they're done. It is, you're getting 90 minutes, use it wisely, and we'll have questions. And so they get their periods of time, and then the justices have questions. That's where everybody starts to interpret which way the justices are thinking based on their questioning.
They can ask for further, if they need more stuff. So they may have to write them something and submit it at a later date. But that's why it takes them from now till
because now they have this stack of things that they need to read, and then they need to ask for clarity and work their way through it. And so it is a big. Don't ever try to be a Supreme Court justice if you don't like to read. We'll just say, guys, there's a lot of reading that goes along with this. That's it.
You can't wait for the movie.
No, and you can't pass it and then read it later. Just saying, you have to read it. You have to think about it. So you need to be a deep thinker who is also right. So it all has to kind of come together. But so it's really going to be interesting to watch. And it's really hard to wait that 8 months because it's going to be extremely far reaching. The other part that is
anytime you open something like this, you could lose as much as you could gain.
Correct.
I mean, this seems very one-sided, and they're asking a lot of questions that seem to be that you're going to get some of your rights back versus they're going to take more from you. But nothing is written in stone about that.
That is why the gun groups, like the Second Amendment Foundation, is very careful about the cases that they bring, and they build upon it, build and build and build. And so they work with the other organizations to do that, because what they don't want to have happen is for somebody to bring a case that kind of sends them off in a direction, or that is short-sighted, or is not as complete.
They want something that's long-term, so it's going to far-reaching instead of a yes or no answer.
Right, and they want to be able to get it there. So it is really kind of Second Amendment geek chess, because they're playing on a big level. But they're working with, there's a couple different state organizations that are extremely active. CNJFO is one of them.
Some of that stuff can take them years to get there, and millions of dollars in lawyer fees and different things.
Heller took 13 years. McDonald took 2 years. And so you can't,
Because you figure if you're in hell, if they're paying 4 or 5 lawyers for 13 years, that's a pretty good chunk of change right there.
We'll just say not inexpensive to get there. So that's the other thing is be generous with the organizations. Let's say Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, CNJFO, the NRA, those organizations that are fighting for your rights, that are writing the bills, that are hiring the lawyers, that are stepping this stuff up. It's a machine that runs on money again. And we each have some skin in the game. So if nothing else, at minimum, join those organizations and support their efforts. But when we come back, we've got some laws for you versus laws for me, depending on whether or not I'm important. Do the laws really apply to me? And we're going to talk about that. So we'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we've got a couple stories that are written by Freddie Reel from Ammo Land and Cam Edwards from Bearing Arms. And really the gist of it says, if you're well connected, it doesn't matter where you live. The laws don't apply to you. So go ahead.
It's funny. This the one is a mayor, ex-mayor now of Rochester, New York. The police come to her home and found that she had unregistered firearms and also that they charged her with felony weapons and child endangering charges.
Charged both her and her husband, and the firearms is a plural. So this is New York, so Rochester, New York. So think about how stringent the New York gun laws are.
They're not saying how many guns they had or any of the stuff on it.
Now here's the funny part, the funny.
She was well connected with the Moms Demand Action. She had done some different work with the grand jury and getting some extra penalties and stuff in this stuff.
So she was instrumental in praising and working with the New York SAFE Act that had mandatory prison sentences
talked about the SAFE Act before, where it's a juvenile. They were letting the juveniles loose because they fit into that SAFE Act thing. On this one here, she'd cut some kind of sweetheart deal with the local prosecutor. It says that because she didn't win her primary in June, all they're going to do is make her step out of office 4 weeks early as the thing. And then they can't, the gun and child endangerment charges would no longer be pursued.
So they would just stop. I'm not going to prosecute you, so that if they don't prosecute, if they don't bring the charges, then she's not charged. And so she doesn't face any of this. She doesn't have the lawyer. She nothing. So she's politically connected.
If you're politically connected or powerful, the odds are that if you get caught with unregistered firearms in Rochester, you're going to face...
You're going to face...
if you're not politically connected,
right.
You're gonna face
the powerful the rules don't apply to me.
If you're the mayor, on the other hand, you get a slap on the wrist and a kiss on the cheek and told not to do it again.
Don't do it again, right? And then what does Shannon Watts think about the fact that here's one of her pet mayors, and
the mayor's name is Lovely Warren, by the way.
Lovely.
That's a fabulous name.
It really is a nice name, but I just don't think the situation is lovely.
There's another guy who is just minding his own business.
Oh, that's what he says.
Giving a couple people a ride. He stopped in traffic. He said he was stopped in traffic. They jumped out of the car and they ran over and busted out the window of this Pinnacle Gun and Ammo in Chicago.
So in Peoria, Illinois, there was a 30-car stoppage that all stopped, jumped out, and looted. So it was one of the rolling riot
They all
loots.
ran in, busted the windows, come back out. The one guy had 3 guns, jumped in the car. The other female minor who was unable to retreat to this guy's SUV was caught by the police. She also had some guns on her at the time of her arrest. And in total, 29 firearms were stolen from this.
From the looting. So the driver was charged, and he has 12 months in prison for driving the car for not doing the looting.
He wasn't doing anything. He just stopped in the traffic jam, and they jumped out. He didn't realize what was happening.
I'm gonna call bunk on that. But he wasn't actually hands-on, but he's still instrumental in it. But I don't understand what
you would think they would steal his. I mean, not steal his car, but they would impound his car.
Right.
He would get his jail time, and then I know that all of that kind of stuff involves, besides prison time, big fines.
Mm-hmm.
and they're saying that 10 years, up to 10 years in prison and up to $250,000 fine, and then 250, or let's say 3 years of supervised release afterwards. So,
Right.
why is it he only is getting the 12 months in prison and not really saying that they really put the horsepower to him?
So they didn't put the horsepower to him, but they put substantially more than they did to the mayor of Rochester. So the question is that, you know, where are these rules and how are they applied and why aren't they?
Justice is not just.
The wheels of justice grind slow, and
Right, but I mean,
there's
no scale of justice. It's heavy here, light there, and
you're all in it on your own, and so the circumstances and it's the luck of the draw, buddy. You're playing the lottery. I just don't get it, and I have a hard time with that.
There's another story here of guys in Minneapolis. He was buying guns and then reselling them, and the main part of the article, which we've had a couple other articles recently about it.
They actually had the prison guard just recently that was buying and selling guns. Right.
I mean, the guns are being found with criminals in the act of doing a crime, so they definitely are lawbreakers. But their big thing is that where they ask if he is the actual purchaser of the gun.
When you're standing there with your money buying a gun.
It doesn't say that when I'm filling this out, it's like you're getting married to that gun and you get to stay with it for so long.
But the ATF has an assumption that is not written on the form, but has an assumption that you are going to keep the gun for a period of 6 months. Because when we, as a gun shop owner, when we owned a gun shop, there was a spot where you could buy a gun, but they expected it to go back into the book, but you couldn't do a private sale as a gun shop owner for 6 months without it being considered a straw purchase.
I hang on to it for 6 months just because it takes that long to find enough bullets to shoot it a couple times to see.
Well, there is that, and moving on. But so there is a period of time, and in one case, it was less than 12 hours. It was, I bought it, I walked over, I handed it to you, you went and committed a crime, and the police caught it.
But it seems like that question is so wide open. Why don't they put a timeline on that or something? It seems like it would be easier to catch someone in this straw purchase type stuff.
Right. Okay. Well, that sort of makes sense in the whole piece.
Otherwise, I mean, when you fill out the form, you are at that moment the purchaser of that firearm. You may not be,
unless I'm using your money. Then it's a straw purchase, regardless. If I go in with your money to buy you this gun,
so they would catch you at that point, and they could do something. But the other way, if I paid before with my money and then I'm
going to resell it,
resold it.
That's different.
Really, it doesn't seem like there's any law actually being broken on that question at that point.
It's the letter of the law versus the intent of the law. Hey, when we come back, we're going to have Dianna Muller. She has just been featured in a Ryan Weaver video. We're going to talk about it. You'll love it.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website www.hfotusa.org and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, we are back, and we want to talk to, we've got our friend Dianna Muller, who is on, and Dianna is the founder of the DC Project, but today we're going to talk about something completely different. You talk about people who stay in their wheelhouse. She has no idea what her wheelhouse looks like or where it is, because it is expanding to pretty much everything. So just yesterday, Ryan Weaver's Let's Talk About Heroes video came out, and you are featured in this video. So let's talk about this a little bit. How did that happen? And hey, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Amanda. That's pretty funny because the director actually was on the flight to the release. We had a release party down here in Georgia where we filmed it this past weekend, and I was on the flight with the director, and he was giving me all sorts of props and saying, I want to work with you again, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, when you see the video, I spent an entire day on that gurney in the hospital, and I didn't do anything. So I don't know what they're talking about, but I appreciate the compliment.
How many days did it take to do the video?
Okay, so Ryan Weaver. Let me tell you about Ryan Weaver. He is an amazing human. He is a combat veteran himself. He served in the military. He's a Black Hawk aviator. He is also a 2-time Gold Star family member. So he has lost his brother, and he has lost his brother-in-law in combat. He got out of the military and pursued a career in singing, and he's a very patriotic singer, has a lot of songs along that vein, and he's just amazing. I saw him for the first time in person do an entire concert last night, and it was amazing. He lived up to everything that I expected. So we have met through the firearms industry several years ago, talked about doing a video a couple of years ago, and that didn't come to fruition. And then this one, Let's Talk About Heroes, which highlights the military, law enforcement, first responders. And he called me and asked me if I would consider doing that. And I said, sure. And we filmed it this summer down here in outside of Savannah, Georgia. And we're releasing it last night was when the video released, and the song is on pre-purchase, or however you do that. You can buy it on iTunes right now. Let's Talk About Heroes. And then it actually goes live on the 11th, I believe, on Veterans Day. So all of this is in kind of coordination with Veterans Day. And I think it's going to be a big week for him, a big week for it. I portrayed basically the lead character, one of the lead characters, I don't know, in the video. I was a police officer, and the backstory to this is I feel like I was a police officer for 22 years in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I loved my career. I did what police officers do all day, every day. But this video is packed with real heroes. When you see the video, my fake dad is Don Jenkins, and he is a Medal of Honor recipient whose story, part of his story was used in the Forrest Gump movie, and him getting the Medal of Honor was his picture that they used with putting on Tom Hanks's face on his picture, and then there was the bugler in the video. His name is Rudy Pearson, and he is a tunnel rat from Vietnam. He's 5'3" and weighs 100 pounds soaking wet. And I've just really enjoyed getting to know these people, because listening to their stories and being in the presence of true heroes is just such an honor. And then lastly, but not leastly, was the girl who comes into the shop, the cafe, to get me to go to the fire. Her name is Jessica Lynch. Jessica Lynch, if that doesn't ring a bell, everybody knew Jessica Lynch's name in 2003 because she was the first POW American woman that was held for POW for 10 days in Iraq. I got to meet her. I stayed with her. I was her roommate, and listening to her story about how, it just relived everything, and got to hear it firsthand from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And it was just such an honor to be in the midst, in the presence of these people who have endured such unspeakable events in their life, and then come out the other end to tell the rest of the world about it.
So I think that the video is very emotional. So he's singing and you're watching the story. And so your head is kind of filling it in as it goes. And I just think it's extremely emotional and well done. So it's pretty cool that I know somebody who's in this video that way. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I think that's a testament to how good the video is because everybody I talk to, everybody who's contacted me, everybody that I've shown it to, they have had the same reaction. It's very emotional. And I'm like, we were talking about it today. We were like, if this video doesn't make you at least tear up, there's something wrong with you.
Well, okay. Well, it accomplished its goal with me. And so we have on... So we will post a link to it on this on the connectors to our shows. But if you are listening on the radio, go to YouTube and then just do Ryan Weaver, Let's Talk About Heroes, and it will pop up because the search is there. And that's where it's at. But on the Facebook and on the Ops Lens, we will link it, so you've got an opportunity to find it, and you stand a chance to do that. So this is pretty cool. So so it has now been has been linked, so it's showing up. But so how long it took you? What, a week to film this or something? I mean, Rob and I were in the movie, the Matthew McConaughey movie, White Boy Rick, and it was excruciating how slow it takes to get something on film to make a director happy. So how excruciating was that?
We didn't have a budget that permitted us to take that long. So I'm telling you what, it was 3 really, really hard days. And it wasn't so hard for me because scenes that I wasn't in, I would duck out. And the bar scene, which it opens up with, I was there in the beginning. I went home and I went to bed. And those people stayed there, another 3 or 4 hours to film all of that. So the crew, the production crew, and then the people that were the extras in there. You'll see Jessica Lynch is in there as well. The bartender, if you're interested, the bartender is the girl you see in uniform, and that's her real life. She's a retired military person, and that's her real uniform. So when she's saluting at the funeral, I didn't recognize her when I walked into the bar. I didn't recognize her. She had so much makeup on, and she looked so different that so the bartender and then the gal in uniform is the same.
The interesting part to me is as you're watching it and you're seeing that, think about how hard it would be that this is happening. There's cameras, he's singing, and nobody in there as an extra is making eye contact. It's almost like he's not there when they're there, but he is. And so being an extra in that has got to be extremely hard because you're directed to look in a completely different direction and pretend for a period of time. And we humans are not set to stay still. And so it just...
And you have the same nasty hot dog or beer or whatever for 6 hours.
Right, you're holding it. Yeah. Look like you're drinking this, but don't drink it because it's now tepid and gross.
Yeah. No, I thought they did such a good job. And this is really just, I mean, they're kind of like me. There's no real actors. The director, his name's Chris Martini. He's a real director. We had a real makeup girl. We had a real wardrobe guy there. So, the production was very high class, but I guess they ran out of money and they had to use normal people. So my fake husband his name is Heath Smith. He does some really cool stuff called Forged America, FORJ America, I think it is, like leather work. And he's friends with Ryan and those kids. Oh my gosh, I would eat that little kid up, that little boy that was my fake boy. I would take him home in a heartbeat. So cute.
It's really neat. And I think that it has more meaning that he has shoved it chock full of people who have done things as opposed to actors. So going the extra effort so that when people are looking at it, they know that it's not pretend heroes, it is real heroes. And so there is that. So Di, thanks so much for joining us. But folks, go look it up on YouTube, Ryan Weaver, Let's Talk About Heroes. And then you'll get to see my friend Di, and you will get to see Ryan Weaver singing his heart out. It is amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot. So,
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Hey folks, you think you need a new gun? Check out the car lineup or Magnum Research or Tommy Gun. A lot of good quality stuff there that's available.
We went and spent some money at the Tommy Gun Warehouse when we were up there in the second week of October. That is where we got the Tiger Stripe Tommy Gun. We'd been talking about it for a while.
If you like long guns, pistols, they have almost every kind of thing that you could ask for. Just go check them out.
Check them out. They are a sponsor of the show, and we are extremely.
You can find them online and then go to your dealer and ask for them by name.
There you go. And yeah, so their concealed carry line of pistols is extremely slimline. That's the part that I think is pretty amazing in how they fit.
They have some really small, I think they call them PMs or polymer micros.
Okay.
And the 380 is it's unbelievably little. It's like you could almost carry it in that little pocket in your swimming suit if you really
wanted
needed something to put in there.
There you go. Okay, let's move on to this story because you've got something by Petrolino.
Now you thought about the pocket in this woman's suit.
Ugh.
Okay, John Petrolino's wrote an article here about Massachusetts or Boston, basically.
It's the city of Boston, yeah.
The guy has applied for a permit. You have to have a license to carry, pretty much before you can start the process of getting a gun. And so he went in January, I believe. Let's see, January 20th. He contacted the police about the appointment. In February, he went and actually submitted his appointment and stuff. They have a certain amount of time that they have to actually move on this stuff. In May, he went and checked on it. Nothing had happened because of the coronavirus. Right. In July, he contacted the next group from not this police department, but the FRB, whoever that is. And they said that they had not received his application. So from February till
Firearms
July.
Review Board. So the Firearms Review Board was then contacted again in September. So this is the interesting part is so given that timeline, so he started in January. By September, it hadn't got to the Firearms Review Board, and it was supposed to have gotten there in a speedy kind of manner.
So something about within 7 days of the receipt of the completed application.
And he was at 9 months. Okay, so 9 months. So the Second Amendment Foundation got involved. There's a press release that from Alan Gottlieb and SAF. This is the interesting part, is that they have agreed to, the city of Boston has settled the lawsuit, has agreed to start again in doing the applications as of October 31st of 2021. So Mr. Alves applied in January of 2020, and they've agreed now, because of Corona, that they'll start in October of 2021, and that was the delay. So they were delayed because,
you can see some of the reason why the Supreme Court is saying that your Second Amendment rights are second-class citizen.
Right.
Type
I mean,
rights.
think about this. It's supposed to move in 7 days, and we're almost on 2 years. So they also then agreed to pay $10,000 to cover attorney fees and costs. I can guarantee you that since they've been fighting this for that long, that $10,000 is a drop in the bucket. But at least they've squeezed some juice out of the lemon, But the good news is that SAF, Firearms Policy Coalition, the state organizations, all these groups, every time they gain ground like this, they gain ground here, and then the perimeter people start to push back. So according to Petrolino,
it was a big win for those seeking relief from this jurisdiction. So that's the thing is, once one guy is stung and has to pay this $10,000,
then the next guy's thinking about it.
Want to pay that money, so they start actually moving. So everything is better all along, but it shouldn't have got to that spot in the first place.
Right, and think about it. In a lot of cases, these are government individuals that are just doing their job, whatever that is, and their goal is not to get in trouble. So they may have an agenda, but they, I just don't want to get in trouble.
The mayor did this thing for this COVID pandemic and subsequently issued orders for forcing all businesses and other organizations not to provide COVID-19 essential services and to close their physical workplaces. It didn't say anything at all about the police department or any of this stuff, but they just took it as part of
if they don't provide COVID essential services, then they have to go home. But if they provide community essential services,
nothing in the governor's COVID orders required the permit licensing authority to refuse to accept or. So they just stopped because it was.
They looked at it and said, "Well, this group gets to go home, and that group gets to go home, and why don't we get to go home?"
Kind of like that group where you were saying about the Florida guy who had lost his password or something, and a couple years back, and it took him a while before.
It took them a long period of time to realize that he'd lost the password.
And then he just quit doing the job because he didn't really have a password.
He quit doing that portion of the job, but he didn't tell anybody. He did everything else, but he just quit doing since it's a background check, and he didn't log in to do the background check. It was sort of like, remember the joke about the three government employees who would come down the road and they were watching, and there's only two this day, and one dug a hole, and then the other filled the hole back in, and then they moved to the next spot, and one dug a hole.
We waited a long time, and then he gets out and shovels the hole in, and find out that the one guy was off sick or something.
That's the guy with the tree. That planted the tree, right.
Well, we've all seen where the president keeps threatening us, where he's taking away AR-15s, he's taking away ghost guns, he's taking away 9mm pistols, I believe was his thing. There's at least right now 20 state attorneys that are
pushing back
this stuff. So this article is I'm sure there's a couple of days old. September.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It says it's posted on September 3rd, so I'm sure that more people than just the 20 that are.
So we'll double check this so we can keep this one going. I somehow got to the bottom of your stack, but it's a Dave Workman article, and Dave does a really good job of researching. So here's the thing: if you guys are interested in Second Amendment stories, we use AmmoLand as a resource. We use Truth About Guns. We use Bearing Arms, and then others. But those are kind of the heart of where good gun articles go to be shared.
Well, at least if you got 20 states that are against it, and a couple more that are
working on it, right?
Waffling, I guess. That keeps them from getting the free for all. Although you can see from the last election, they didn't really take any hints from the fact that the people weren't happy with the way things are running.
So here's an interesting one. There is a bill right now. It's got 4 numbers, but I didn't write it down. That is actually about banking, and we've all heard the thing about banking and the $600. This is a different bill that wants to monitor your banking to find out if you're buying things that the government finds offensive. So if you are a super user of firearms and ammunition,
who are they paying to look through all this stuff to see if you spent $600 and if you bought a gun or whatever?
Well, then they're tracking.
So is it an unfunded government mandate? Is it that they're actually going to
a funded one? But they are actually going to track what your purchases were. So if you're buying guns, ammunition, explosives,
remember, pay cash, folks.
Those types of things, they then have the ability to call the FBI on you and tag you as a potential terrorist. So they are going to have your bank track where you're making your purchases. So that is
how we go in spurts with different names. I mean, now everybody's a domestic terrorist. So they go from one colorful name to the next
one. Now they're going to use this one for a while. So just pay attention to it. It doesn't have any co-sponsors. It only has a singular nutcase sponsor. But watch it, because when one guy thinks it's groupthink happening there in D.C. See you next week.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.